Thank you. And I thought I'll begin with the video, but since it's not been, I've not been able to transfer it, and it's not been, why don't you? Since it's not been downloaded, we are still, like it's yet in the process of being transferred. I think I'll start talking. So yes, but before I start, I just wanted to know how many of you in this room have been to a mining belt, seen photographs, seen videos, read about mining, especially coal mining in this country. Okay, that's a big group, I think. So I was thinking I'm going to address a group who've not been actually into, into this whole issue of coal mining. So to begin with, I've been asked to talk about 2-3 things. Offloading that has happened on the 11th of Jan. The other thing was how the government is cracking down on NGOs. And the third was, of course, to talk about Singrauli and in Madhya Pradesh and Mahan, where we actually work on the ground. So I was just telling Akshay and also Saurabh that actually I'll talk more about Mahan and Singrauli, because the offloading as well as the harassment or the whole crackdown on Greenpeace is just because we've been working in Mahan. And it's more important to know why we've been working in Singrauli and understand the politics of that region vis-a-vis development. And that, I think that's the answer to why the offloading happened and why Greenpeace has been targeted and has been, pulled into all kinds of controversies in the past 1 year. So, Singrauli is a district in Madhya Pradesh. It's a mining belt, and this district basically produces 10% of the total coal-based energy of the country. So thermal energy mix in the country has all kinds of energy. So you have energy from nuclear, you have energy from renewables, you have energy from coal. Coal is the biggest, stake in the mix. So almost 60% of the energy in the country is produced from coal. And how you obtain coal in India is open cast mining. Open cast mining means you actually cut down, huge tracts of forest, and then you start digging. You remove the topsoil, you remove the soil beneath it, you actually dig a big crater kind of a thing, which is called a mine, and you take out coal. So that's how mining happens, which means you actually destroyed everything on top of the soil in order to get the coal. That's how majority of the coal mining in this country happens. So Singrauli is a belt where open cast mining is rampant. It's a district which has 11 mines and 9 thermal power plants. And this is just in one district, you must remember. And the government proposes to double the amount, of the capacity in terms of production of coal, and also in terms of energy production from that region. So right now we have 11 mines and 9 thermal power plants, and then there is more other industry there. There's cement, there's steel plant and stuff like that. It's in terms of industrial clusters, it's the third most polluted industrial cluster in the country. And this is not something that Greenpeace has said, so you can accept it, because this is what the Central Pollution, Index says. This is something that the Central Pollution Control Board says, which the MOEF also reiterated. So this is the background of Singrauli. Singrauli historically has been a region which had forests and vast tracts of forests. Rewa, which is the neighboring district, was like earlier days when, during the Raj of the kings and the rulers of that region, the Rewa kings used to rule this region, and the forest in this region was so thick, the sal forests. They are, of course, the last remaining sal forests of Asia. They are well known, as a species. So this whole patch of forest was used, by the Rewa kings. Whenever somebody was subject to, they committed any offense, they were sent as a Kalapani Saza. They were sent off to the Singrauli forests, because they would never come back. That was the quality of the forest there. And today, if you go to Singrauli, you don't see forest. There's only 1/3 forest of Singrauli that's remaining. The rest has all been mined. Either there are mines, or there are thermal power plants, or there's some industry that has been set up cutting down those forests. And Mahan, where we work happens to be the last remaining forest of Singrauli. That's just 1/3 of what used to be there in Singrauli. So we've been working in Mahan for around 4.5 years, and we've been working on coal mining in the region. We've been working on coal mining in the region because if you look at the Central Indian Belt, all the coal in the Central Indian Belt lies below the forests. You look at all the states, whether it's Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa. These are the 5 states that are there in the Central Indian Belt, and there's a lot of forest in all these states, and there's a lot of coal also. It's mineral rich. There's iron ore and other bauxite and also, but there's more of coal in the Central Indian Belt. And if you have to get coal from the Central Indian Belt, you have to destroy the forests because mining is open cast. So that's one of the reasons we started working in Singrauli, was because it was a picture, like ideally, because the dream of development that's shown to us, ideally in a place where there are so many industries, it should be the picture of development, right? Like that's, for us, the picture of development is more and more industrialization. More and more industries coming in should ideally pave way for development, right? So in that sense, on that indicator, Singrauli should be very, very developed because it's got so many industries, mines, thermal power plants, cement factories, steel plants and all of that. But if you come to Singrauli, Singrauli is nothing but the picture of development, The only thing that you see in Singrauli would be huge mine overburdens. It's like these artificial mountains, which are 300, 350 feet high, which is made out of the mud that is taken out from the mines basically. And there's the quality of air pollution is really, really bad. There's mercury contamination in the water. So there's been all kinds of reports. The fly ash contains all kinds of chemicals, and that's all present in Singrauli. We ourselves have worked on a report called Coal Kills, which shows how incidents of health impacts of coal mining in Singrauli and other parts of India are really, really dangerous, and what impacts they have. So we've been working with the communities in Mahan on this whole issue of coal mining, because there was this mine that was proposed, which was part of the coal gate, which was the famous, I think one of the biggest corruption issues that was ever raised in this country was coal gate, right? So Mahan was also allocated during the same time. So the video is ready. I'd actually like you guys to see it before I go into talking about it, because I think it will give you a better perspective. So the video is actually talking about, there are 3 stories, there are 3 individuals in this video. They're all people from Mahan. There are 2 people who are from Mahan, and there are people who've been displaced already by a mine. So there's this lady who's given her land, but her, she's not been moved from her land. There's this old man who is 82. His name is Jeetlal Baiga. That's the last video you will see. He's been displaced. When I went to Singrauli, initially I had gone to his house in the forest, and I met him in that house. Unfortunately, I didn't document him in his house because I didn't know he's going to be thrown out of his house so fast. And now you can see him in the rehabilitation colony, because very soon he was displaced by the Reliance mine. And the first video you will see is about the mahua that's collected in the forest, and a story of a family.
This is the one?
Yeah.
Do you know where your electricity comes from? Your electricity is sponsored by Ramadhar Saket, his wife Radha Kali, and their family. They have the misfortune of living in Singrauli, whose vast coal reserves supply a large part of the fuel for the power sector in India. They will have to give up their land, their home, their livelihoods, and the forest that has supported them, and many others for generations, just so that you and I can flip a switch, watch TV, use the AC, or surf the net. Every year, during the week when the mahua trees drop their flowers, Ramadhar and his wife Radha Kali shut up their house in Amelia village and walk with their sons, daughter and daughters-in-law to set up camp in the forest. They carry with them kitchen utensils, mattresses to sleep on, and empty sacks in which they will pack the 20 to 25 kilos of mahua they collect every day. Their grandchildren come with them too, and this year they have a 6-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy, and a 9-month-old baby playing around them in the forest as they gather the yellow fruits.
हम लोग सुबह से बीनते हैं, सुबह से लेकर दिन भर बीनते हैं, दिन भर 5 बजे तक। और पूर्ण सवेरे अपना सांझे खाना बनाना खा कर पी कर सूख जाते हैं, पूर्ण सवेरे उठते हैं 6 बजे पूर्ण बीनते हैं। दिन भर के यही काम है, डेली के डेली। तब भर महुआ मिली, ना मिली तो अपना चले जाएंगे घर। 10 दिन हो गया, 12 दिन, 10-12 दिन और रहेंगे। यहाँ तो 50 आदमी हैं, रात भर यही रहते हैं। झरिया में जाते हैं पानी लेने, किस उधर गाँव में जाते हैं चापा पर पानी लेने। महुआ का सब बना के चुरऊ का खाना, रसपुटका खाना बना कर एक मेर भूज का खाना, एक मेर लट्टा कूट का खाना, एक मेर जिन्होरी में लट्टा कूट कर पीस देना ओके जिन्होरी मकई में।
आदमी जिसे काम करेगा, मेहरारू ना करे, मेरा दूसरा काम है या नहीं या तो कितना पूरेगा। घर में मेहरारू जब कोई का 4 हो जाए, कोई का 5 लड़का हो जाए, ये परिवार ज्यादा बा तो 2-1 किलो में कहाँ पूरी। 16 रुपया 17 रुपया किलो, 20 रुपया किलो चावल बा, 40 रुपया 50 रुपया दाल बा, कितनी महंगा बा। एक आदमी कहाँ पूरा पारी। हाँ तो मेहरारू कर लेती यानी, और दूसरा काम रही तो मेहरारू करी ना पड़ी। एक बात है भाई, मेहरारू को बिल लेती यानी कि घसलरी को बिल लेता, और दूसरा काम कहाँ है, औरत कहाँ कर पाई। औरत लाए काम दे तब ना औरत कर पाई। औरत की कर कि चल वहाँ चढ़, जैसे प्लांट में भाई भी एक बात कहती, जिसे मर्द नहीं आना चढ़ता तो मेहरारू वहाँ चढ़ पड़ी। मेहरान की लगेगा ना करी, देवा ना करी।
हमारे भाई यही जिया खात रही, चला जाई कोनो कंपनी ले ली, खदान खोल दी तो हमारे काम ना दी तो तकलीफ ना बा, काम दे दी तो मैंने भुला जाई, ना दी तो तकलीफ ना, तब कहाँ जाई महुआ बिना, कहाँ से खाई।
The next time you flip an electrical switch, think
Just
of
now
Rama
come to
Sakhet,
6 minutes,
Radha Kali,
46
their family.
seconds.
Don't you think they deserve better
Come to
than sacrifice?
yeah. Just stop it and go into 6 minutes.
Right now.
That's the next story. 6 minutes. Go. A little more.
People
6 minutes 46.
compensate for uprooting the family. Really how we want to get.
Yeah.
Amravati Namdev of Singrauli sold her substantial land holdings, including the land next to her house, to the coal mining companies, lured by their promise of good compensation. Now she feels that the many fruit trees that grow on the land she sold are cursing her for betraying them. The trees are bare, devoid of fruit, and the company too has failed to deliver on its promises. Can you understand her feelings? Amravati is a single mother of 6 and the head earner of the house since her husband died 7 years ago. She used to be reasonably well off. Her house still bears testament to this. She and her family will have to move soon to make way for the mine, which is only a road away from the house. The ground underneath the compound shakes with the blasting that emanates twice a day from the mine.
ये देखिए जमीन का मुआवजा थोड़ा बहुत मिल गया है ना, तो देखिए पेड़ पौधा सब मान लीजिए कि हरंस मान लिए हैं, कोई फल नहीं रहे हैं। इसलिए कि हम लोगों का विक्रय कर दिए हैं तो हम इस से नहीं फलेंगे, नहीं फूलेंगे। नहीं ऐसे आम में वृक्ष में हम लोग भाई जीते हैं, खाते हैं, कोई मार्केट ले जाते हैं बेचने बिक्री करने। कटहल है, आम है, नींबू है, भाई इसी में ना आदमी जीता है, कमाने वाले तो कोई है नहीं, इसी में कमाता है। तो भाई गुस्सा हो गए हैं तभी नहीं फल रहे हैं ना। इसमें दिया है कि आपको 20 कापित के बार में मिली आप लोगों का विधवा पेंशन मिलेगा। जो कहते हैं विधवा पेंशन, विधवा हो जाते हैं तो 10,000 महीना बोला है देने के लिए। महीना देंगे जो वृद्धा हो जाएंगे। और वो बोले हैं कि बच्चों का पढ़ने के लिए कॉलेज देंगे और आप लोगों की जितना परिवार हैं एक परिवार में एक नौकरी देंगे। और बोला है कि बच्चों के लाइन बत्ती जहाँ अगर देंगे प्लाट देंगे वहाँ पर सुविधा देंगे। विस्थापित कार्ड बनवाया है तो हम लोगों का ठग करके बनवाया है कि सब चीज़ आप लोगों का माने सुविधा देंगे, और दिया नहीं है। और कब देगा? मर जाएगा आदमी तब देगा। 1 एकड़ का 5 लाख रुपया देने की तैयार था, लेकिन अभी दिया है 3 लाख रुपया, हमें 2 लाख बाकी है। अब कहाँ बताएं, वह 2-2 कमरा बनवाया है, डब्बा इतना बड़ा बड़ा। देखिए इतना बड़ा घर है तो हम लोगों का गुजर नहीं हो पाया है, हो गया है, और इतना इतना डब्बा में गुजर हो जाएगा।
There is a saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You can add false promises to that. As you and I go on with our lives, Amravati will have to think hard about how she and her family are going to survive. After all, she's all they have. Jeet Lal Bega is about 85 years old. 4 months ago, he was shunted out of his forest house on the mountain to make way for a new coal mine. His belongings were put in a trailer and taken to a rehabilitation housing complex, a grid of soulless little concrete houses marked with numbers. That's how they do things in Singrauli, India's energy capital. It's called bringing tribal communities into the mainstream. As compensation, Jeet Lal received $1.5 lakh, half of which he has already spent building a wall around his new compound. He also received some rice and vegetables, but they didn't last long. His main concern is that he is now out of the forest and is too old to be able to walk up to the mountain to reach it. He has always gained his livelihood from the forest, and once the mine starts and he cannot even reach the forest at the foot of the hills, he doesn't know what he will do for income or for food. Dule Seri, his wife, says she thinks that they will have to beg.
भाई अब कहाँ कहे जब नहीं रहने दे कि यहाँ बिरहस्ती होता है, कोनो खदान हो गया, हटिए यहाँ चलिए, हम पलाट देंगे, आपको खाने पीने की देंगे, सब चीज़ पानी की सुविधा देंगी, वहाँ हम तो लोगों की खाने की देंगी। 2 महीना तक देहें 25 किलो कई दिना चली।
कुछ हमरन की साधन नहीं दिया साहब, तब का कही हमरे की ना लाई ना बिजली ना, तो हमरन की कूलर ना पंखा ना, हमरन की कुछ नहीं दिया। बगली में जंगल गाय मान कर लगा दिए हैं, तो कहाँ पाई धूप में मरते हैं। और जंगल में भाई रही तो वहाँ रूप पेड़ पौधा रहे तो मैं जाकर छहिया गई। यहाँ कहाँ मिले पत्ता में खाली वहाँ करी खाई। यहाँ तो कुछ काम रोजगार हमरन की जंगरे करे ना पारब दूसर काम, अब कैसे दाना खा कैसे का करब। पहले हमरे वह हर बड़ा वह केहू का ले जात रहे तो वह जोत बो का वह उपजाई तो वह खात रही पहाड़ ऊपर आने का अधिया भगा, वैसे वह ले जात रहे तो वह कोरी निराई बो देते रहे तो होत रहे हमरे की खाए भर की साल भर की, तो वहीं में गुजर हो हमरे का। अब गाय में बीज तान का ले जात रहे, पत्ता में खारी लकड़ी झूरी बेच खोच कर बढ़ने कुची सब बेची बिकने तो लेकर चढ़ी तो पहाड़े खाए। हमारे बच्चे का हम यहाँ आ गई, अब बच्चे तो वहाँ होगा ना धूल जी हमारा के टंगर गन्ना, यहाँ देखी ना वहाँ देखी, अब कहाँ रही।
जमीन का कुछ नहीं दिए, बोले कि ये तो जंगल विभाग है रमना, इसको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, बस झोपड़ी भर का मिला।
Today we talk about having a tribal candidate for president, but there's an important step we may have to take before that. Let's first.
So those were the 3 stories. The first person you saw, Ramadhar Saket, he's from Mahan, the village where we have been fighting the mine, the proposed mine. And in his forest, mining has not happened yet. He still picks mahua and tendu leaves and continues to live in this forest. The second is Moher, where a Reliance mine has come up. That village now has been displaced, but when we made this video, Amravati's video, that village was not displaced. The land was taken in by Reliance, but they had not yet been displaced. And Jeetlal Bega, the third video that you saw, he's an 82-year-old person, and I still remember very well going and meeting him, as I was telling you, in his forest home. And he mistook me to be a government official. And because he knew that he was soon to be displaced, he kept on telling me time and again that you are very powerful people. If you displace, like, I can't stop you from throwing me out of my house, but I just have one request: put me in some other forest. I don't know how to live in a place other than a forest, he said. And those words always stayed with me, because he continuously just told me, the only thing I know is jadi booty, you know. I know only how to pick medicinal plants, you know. That's what I've done my entire life, and that's the only job that I know in my life. So I don't know what to do in a city. How will I go and live in a place where there is no forest? So his whole demand was that put me in another forest where there are medicinal plants, and, you know, where my life really doesn't change, you know, because I don't know how to live in a place other than a forest. But of course, you know, we displaced them, and he now lives in that small rehabilitation colony in those yellow houses that you saw. And he tries to walk up he's got cattle, and that's how he now runs his livelihood. But then again, as she was saying, there's a lot of difficulty because they don't have place to keep the cattle, and it's very hot. You saw that patch, there's not a single tree. So the cattle all are dying, and there are multiple issues. So they feel that they'll have to beg. And what's interesting is when he was displaced from this village, from his house, he was given, 50 quintals of rice. He was given onion, he was given potatoes, and he was given liquor, all in lieu of the house in which he stayed. So that's the cost, you know, that's what we are giving them, you know, in return of the great promise of development. So that's the biggest question, you know, that's being debated today, you know, the dream of development. You know, we have two Indias. There are a bunch of people who believe industrialization and the current form of development where markets are opened up, FDI coming into this country is the answer to development and growth in this country. And then you have the realities, which are very, very stark, which you debate. You don't sit in these rooms and debate about it. The realities are out there in the villages, in the forest, for you to see. And the realities are very different from what we think, you know, it is actually. So you've seen for yourself the mine overburdens and the life of the people there. So this whole debate of development is around these two issues, basically. You know, how do we see development? So when we went into Mahan and decided to save that last patch of forest, it was a joint venture of SR and Hindalco, and for 4.5 years we've been fighting that mine, because the clearance for the mine was given based on a forged Gram Sabha document. The law lays down certain process for forest land diversion. There is the Historic Forest Rights Act, which says that in order to divert forest land for non-forest use, you need to get consent of communities, which the government incidentally has been trying to dilute and continues very hard to dilute. Even today I was reading that an article by Nitin Sethi where, you know, they are trying to dilute the entire process and remove consent of communities from the entire piece of legislation. So there is that law in place, but what kind of consent is obtained on the ground is very interesting, because a Gram Sabha was held in Amelia village. There are 54 villages depend on these forests. So ideally you should hold a Gram Sabha in each of those villages and take their consent. Nobody bothered to do that, but at least they held a Gram Sabha in one village. The Gram Sabha was attended by 184 people, and then there was forgery. 1125 signatures were forged onto that document. Based on this forged Gram Sabha resolution, the collector gave an NOC based on which the forest clearance was given to this mine. And that's precisely the reason why we said we will not allow mining in those forests. So there was Mahan Sangharsh Samiti, which is a community-led movement. We as Greenpeace play a facilitator role out there, you know, because there's a lot of gap between, you know, all the clearance documents, all the information is in the English language, which people there don't understand. So our job is is to teach them to file RTIs, get information out, translate it to and share it with them. The whole job is to just empower them, and the fight is theirs ultimately, and we stand with them and fight with them. So we've been fighting against this mine for more than 4.5 years, and we've been asking some hard questions on development. The people of Mahan don't want a mine. They don't believe the mine is going to develop them. They don't want a school from the company. So again, I want to share, like when the collector came to the village and asked them, and he was talking in the language of the company, and he said that when the company comes, development will come. There'll be schools, there'll be hospital, there'll be a road through your village and all of that. So this one person, he picked up his hand and he said, I understand what you're saying, the company will bring development, but what will the government do? And if the government has no role in bringing development, then why are you sitting here and trying to talk to us? Then we'll talk to the company. As a government representative, why have you come to talk to us? To which, of course, the collector did not have any answer, and he got irritated and he left, though he promised to sit the whole day and have a long meeting, to negotiate, the give and take on what terms will you give your forest. But he was irritated because of this question and he left later on. So the whole issue there is that people in Mahan have said, we don't want your kind of development. We are happy with the forest. But even when we say that, we are not against development. As Greenpeace, we are not against development. As Mahan Sangharsh Samiti, we are not against development. We are for development, but who should bring in the development is a big question. We are a welfare state. The government is responsible to bring in development. The corporates are not responsible to bring in development into this country. So there's this larger issue of development that needs to be dealt with. And exactly because we were asking these hard questions, we've been targeted. We've been targeted multiple times. We've been harassed and cases filed against us. And that is how the whole thing panned out, which led to the offloading and which led to Greenpeace being targeted very strongly. So, as I was telling you earlier, the offloading is why did anybody bother to call us anti-nationals? The reason they called us anti-nationals is because they felt we are stopping development in Mahan. But we have another vision for development. We also have a dream for this country. Just because our dream for this country does not coincide with your dream for this country or your policies for this country, does not mean I do not have a right to, voice my opinion, which is a dissenting opinion in this country. If that's the case, then the current BJP government came into power with only 31% votes on their side. The rest of India is anti-national, right? Because they didn't vote for them. They don't believe in their policies. They don't believe in the way they will look at development for the next 5 years. So the whole issue here, and then how you can see that the whole issue of development, because it's at the heart of the debate. Development for the government is basically trying to snatch away resources from corporates. Look at each and every, the government tries to bring in the coal ordinance, which talks about penalizing people who are protesting against thermal power plants and coal mines in this country. The right to freedom of forming associations and the right to peacefully protest is something that the constitution guarantees to me. But then the government wants to bring in an ordinance that will curb my fundamental right. Similarly, if you look at the land ordinance that was being brought, or if you look at the dilutions in laws that are being proposed. So all this, ultimately, who is all this benefiting? Who is the beneficiary of each of these changes that are being proposed in law? It's all the corporates, right? If you remove consent of tribal communities from the Forest Rights Act, who is it going to benefit? If you remove consent from the Land Acquisition Act, you reduce the quorum from 80% of people consenting to 50% of people consenting, who is it going to benefit? So is there any positive change in law that's going to benefit people? No. Every change is going to benefit the corporate. It's going to basically facilitate corporate takeover and loot of resources in this country, which we believe is not the way forward, is not the development that we see India is going to develop on. So that, and in a country like India, where majority of people, they depend on agriculture, on forests and fisheries for their livelihoods, you cannot separate, development from environment and say, okay, environmental destruction has nothing to do with development. We can destroy environment and bring in development in this country. So you definitely have to look at a model. You cannot blindly follow the Western model of development and say, yes, this is how we want to develop. So that's a major question that has been brought forth, and we've been fighting. There's a ground fight. So as Greenpeace, we've been doing advocacy. We've been lobbying people in terms of the ministries. We had the Tribal Affairs Minister Kishore Chandra Dev writing a letter, a very strong letter to the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh saying there's been forgery and please look at FRA implementation in the region. We've spoken to various political parties. We've approached courts in this country. I am a lawyer, but I don't know whether I should be, proud to say this or ashamed of saying this, that I'm a lawyer. I've been working there for 4.5 years, but I've not been able to register one FIR on forgery. So that's how law manifests itself on the ground, especially in regions where there is resource conflict, where there is resource and then there is a corporate that wants to take over the resource, and then there are communities who are fighting to save those resources. We worked in an area where the local police station was housed within the SR compound. A public utility service is housed within the compound of a corporate registered in UK. We had to campaign for 1.5 years to get that police station out of the region, because every time you move, you reach the gate and you want to go in to file a complaint, you have to sign on the SR register first. That was the rule. And why should we sign on the SR register? Because company ke andar hai police station. So I because we are all law students, I really because I've studied law for 7 years of my life, and I had the whole dream of, law is going to help change this country, and if you know law and push it to be implemented well, that's how this country is going to prosper, and this is how this country is going to change. It totally changed for me when I went into these regions and started working, because having studied law, having practiced law briefly, and having been an activist for almost 8 years before I went into Singrauli, I realized that I can't even get one FIR registered. And forget FIRs, Akshay is sitting here. He's got 2 cases registered on him, one of loot, the other of beating up a policeman. Both of which are false cases, In both cases, he was arrested at midnight, at 12. I keep wondering what's this whole thing of, like the Cinderella syndrome, the clock strikes 12 and the police is at your doorstep. And the way the arrests were. So I was so the whole thing, you keep reading about, illegal detention, A.K. Gopalan case, and the rights of people who are, arrested and all of that. And then what you see is that every time arrests happen in Singrauli, it happens at midnight. The arrest gets registered the next day, All those hours, where's the person? How could you have kept him in illegal detention? There's no answer. And then there's no warrant. When they came in to arrest him, and they asked, where is, warrant? Kya hai, kyun, why do you want to arrest us? What is the thing? So there were some 8-9 people, and the police was picking and choosing. You come, you come, you come, and you come. So that's how arrest happened. You ask them why you were arresting us like this, what is happening, where are you taking us? The police doesn't have a warrant. They say, but if we tell you everything here, what will we tell you at the station? अगर सारी बात यहीं बता देंगे तो थाने पे क्या बताएंगे? Is the response of the police. So you have company officials dictating an FIR, and the police just becoming a clerk right in front of your eyes. The whole night the company dictates, and there's an FIR filed in your name. So the thing is, while on one hand we've not been able to get an FIR with evidence, the whole forgery wherein the Gram Sabha resolution was forged, we have death certificates. There's some 6 to 7 people who were dead on the date of the Gram Sabha. We have some 6 to 7 death certificates with us. And the police says, but where is the evidence of forgery? There were 2 people who were in jail on that day, who were in jail. There are 30 people who've given written affidavits saying my signature is there, but I have not been at the Gram Sabha. None of this is evidence to file an FIR. An FIR. Okay, we're not talking about conviction and other stuff. We're just saying the first information report is not filed, even after we are producing all this evidence in favor of this whole issue. So you really understand. So this whole thing, and this is a pattern. This is not happening only in Mahan. Mahan is symbolic of what is happening in the entire mining belt. Whether it's POSCO, whether it's Niyamgiri, everywhere false cases are being used. Sedition as a law, it's an archaic law. That's being used to suppress voices of dissent, suppress opinions just because they happen to be a dissenting opinion in this country. So that's why we find that Abhay Sahu, who's fighting in POSCO, has 205 cases registered against him, all of which are false. An entire village in Orissa gets like 1,500 people in that village, including children of 12, 13 years, get warrants issued in their name because they're protesting a steel plant in the region. So the law, as we see it, you'll see gross violations of human rights, gross misuse of law by corporates on the ground, all used for the benefits of a bunch of people who want to make profits and money for themselves. So this is a pattern that you see with the government, and I wouldn't say that, you know, the UPA government was very much different from what the BJP government is today. I definitely do feel very thoroughly that the BJP government is much more aggressive and blatant and arrogant. But in terms of policies, they were no different. The UPA was the government that gave stage 2 clearance to the mine. There were so many letters which prove the strong nexus. You know, Shashi Ruya writing to the Jairam Ramesh refusing to give clearance, Shashi Ruya writing to PMO, PMO writing to Jairam Ramesh. Again, you have Jayanti Natarajan refusing to give clearance, Aditya Birla writing to PMO, Shashi Ruya writing to PMO, PMO giving instructions, give stage 2 clearance, Jayanti Natarajan making a note on her file saying, I am under pressure and I am giving this clearance under pressure. So this is the pattern in which, but of course UPA only gave stage 2 clearance to the mine. So you see that how this whole space of dissent is being curved, this whole space, how the larger debate or the larger narrative of development is being framed in this country. What is the popular narrative of development? What is the popular story of development that runs in this country? It's not the story of Jeetlal Bega. It's not the story of Ramadhar Saket. It's not the story of Amravati. The popular narrative of development in this country is the story of how, you know, people are stopping corporates from coming in and developing, this development being stopped in this country. So Greenpeace has been targeted, and I would say targeted and harassed and intimidated, because we've been anti-coal, we've been pro-people, we've been fighting a corporate registered in a foreign company. By the way, whether you're registered in a foreign country or whether you're registered in this country, you really don't, because what you see, why is it that, you know, this form of development, of loot of resources is happening only in the southern countries? Why is it that the Latin American countries face this? Why is it that the South African countries face it? Why is it that Asia, why is it that these continents are seeing this resource loot? So this is a pattern. There's a pattern of inequality, there's a pattern of corporate takeover of resources, not just in India, but across the globe. And today in a globalized world, you know, you want FDI in this country, you're okay with World Bank money which comes with conditions, you're okay with ADB money that comes with conditions, but you have a problem with an NGO bringing in money. Why so? Why a double standard? When the money from the NGO is coming into the country, it's coming under a law, it's coming under the Foreign Currency Regulation Act, right? And the government is well within its limits to do whatever is available as a remedy under that law. So why are we making so much of hue and cry about foreign funding when we don't have an issue with foreign funding when it comes as FDI into this country? We don't have an issue with foreign funding when it comes in as World Bank money into this country. We don't have a problem with foreign funding when it's coming as ADB loans to this country. That money also comes with a condition, right? That money also is coming with a condition. We've seen how World Bank structural policy is clearly laid down, you know, and how over years, you know, whether it's been the Sardar Sarovar project from which World Bank eventually pulled out, or over a period, how all this foreign money has had an adverse effect according to me. But when you raise these issues for communities in this country whose rights are being violated, whose human rights, whose environmental rights have been violated, then you become an anti-national. And this whole issue of anti-nationalism, who decides what is national and who decides what is anti-national in this country? That's strange, because protecting the interests of a foreign corporation becomes national interest, and fighting for the rights of a bunch of people in Singrauli becomes anti-national, which is very strange. So who decides what is anti-national in this country? So these are some of the things that I wanted to actually throw open. We can have a discussion on some of these things. If there are more questions, my presentation may not have been very structured as in, touching each of these issues, but they are all linked to each other nevertheless. And we can definitely have a more open discussion, and please feel free to ask questions on anything that you think is linked to this issue and important to be debated. Yeah.